Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Data Analytics. I am your host Professor Rage Udaikiran. In this video, we are going to learn what is a sequence database and how to create it. The outline of my talk is as follows. First, we discuss about transactional database and its limitations. Next, we learn about sequence databases. Next, we learn the rules the user have to follow in order to create a sequence database. Then, we discuss the examples by showing how to create sequence data from real world applications. Finally, we provide a small demo on creating a sequence database. Transactional database is a collection of transactions. Each transaction represents a set of items. If you want to know more about transactional databases, please check the link provided above. A main limitation of transactional databases is that they do not capture the occurrence order of the transactions. Is there any order or not? That component is missed in a transactional database. Let us understand the limitation with a real world application, say supermarket dataset. So assume there is an imaginary supermarket selling the items bread, jam, butter, etc. A customer has visited the supermarket and he purchased bread and jam. The second customer visited the supermarket and he purchased bread and butter. Next, the customer 1 came back to the supermarket and purchased bat and ball. Then the customer 3 has visited the supermarket and he purchased bat and ball. So, in this way, the customers have purchased. Observe that customer 1 has made 2 purchases in the supermarket. However, if we convert the sales data into a transactional database, we simply miss the purchase order of the customers. For example, if you see, we cannot capture that transaction 1 and transaction 3 are made by the same customer. That order is lost while creating transactional databases. To solve that limitation, researchers have introduced new form of a database called sequence databases. Sequence is basically an ordered collection of item sets, or we can also call them as transactions or elements. So as shown here, a sequence SK contains the first item set bread comma jam, the second item set ball bat, the third item set bread jam and cheese. This sequence tells to the user that a customer has visited the supermarket and at first he purchased the items bread and jam. After the purchases, later in the time, he visited the supermarket again and purchased the items ball and bat. Later, he visited the supermarket again and purchased bread, jam, and cheese. This way, a customer's purchases over a time can be preserved in a sequence. And when we collect these sequences, then the result is a sequence database. Now let us look at the rules to create a sequence database. The first rule is item sets in a sequence are separated by a colon mark. In other words, the pattern mining algorithms in PAMI library treat each item set as a column. Next, items in a item set are separated by a separator. So in this case, default separator we have used is tab space. However, users can override this default separator. The third rule is that every line represents a sequence in a sequence database. So this is an important rule. Afterwards, the fourth rule is that an item set can appear multiple times in a sequence. Next, each sequence can have different number of item sets. But please keep in mind that in an item set, an item cannot appear multiple times. In other words, duplicates are not allowed in a item set. However, item set duplicates can happen in a sequence. So these are the rules to be followed to create a sequence database. Now let us look at some examples to create sequence databases. First, let us look at the sales data. Previously, we talked about the purchases made by three different customers. When we have the sales data of the customers, we create sequence data by gathering the data of each customer. So we do this first by creating a new column called customer identifier. So we create a new column called customer identifier and we add the customer information. Next, based on the customer information, we group the transactions and order them by transaction identifiers. For example, when we group by CID, we get 1 and 3 transactions. So we group them here and we say that bread job followed by bat ball. This way, the order of purchases by the customers can be saved in a sequence databases. Now, let us look at the multiple sensor data and see how we can create a sequence database. So, in Japan, the Ministry of Environment has set up a sensor network to measure air pollution. This sensor network is collecting data at hourly basis. Now, what we can do is using the domain knowledge, we first convert the hourly sensor data into binary format. Once we convert the data into a binary format, what we can do is we can write a small program that can group the data by day and order by time to create a sequence database. For example, if we see in this data frame, we have days 1 and 2, and for each day there is a time. So when we convert this data frame into a sequence database, we first say that S1, S2, so on up to Sn have appeared. in the first transaction. In the next transaction, S1, S2, so on up to Sn has appeared. So in this way, for the entire day, we can create a sequence. Similarly, we can create a sequence for the second day and so on. So we have discussed on how to create a sequence databases from the real world. Now, let us look at a small demo on how to create a sequence database. So now let us create a file called sales sequence database.txt. So in this file, I am going to store the purchases of the customers. So let us say customer has purchased bread, jam, cheese. Then later he purchased bread, cheese, bat, bar. Next he purchased bat, bar. The another customer came to the supermarket and he purchased bat, ball, then vegetables, juice, bread, jam. Next he purchased bat, ball, jam. The third customer purchased bread, jam. So this way we can create sequence databases where each sequence preserves the purchase order of the customers. So in this sequence data, useful information is hidden. Sequence pattern mining algorithms in PAMI library can discover the hidden purchase behavior of the customers in the data. That's all for the presentation. If you like our work, please subscribe to our channel and give a like to this video. If you want to know more about sequence databases, please visit the official PAMI website and know more about this type of the database.